So good day everyone, we are the members of Group 7 and we are about to discuss the final lesson of our subject, which is the cultural communities in Mindanao. So the first one is the Lumad. So what is a Lumad? Lumad is the umbrella term for the indigenous people of the southern Philippines whose ancestors did not convert to Islam in pre-colonial times. Fun fact, the term Lumads is for natives in southern island of Mindanao and the term Igorot for northern Luzon. Despite of staying on mountains and away from cities, Lumads still face various issues such as discrimination, poverty, and loss of ancestral lands. So discrimination, the unfair treatment and prejudice against these people are the most common way of discriminating them. People tend to stay away from them and treat them harshly just because they look different. Next is poverty. Although Lumads chose to live the traditional way, the always changing society will still affect the Lumads' way of life. Someday, you can't hide the fact that it is inevitable for Lumads to adapt, and that's where money will take its place, forcing Lumad to go to nearby towns or cities to earn for their daily needs. Last one, so loss of ancestral lands. These issues are what the Lumads are fighting for up until today. The taking over of various groups and companies claiming these lands for self-gains. Balik ka.
Sikan na ako no kay angay ka igtabang niyo kanami. No sinangag padayon ko pagtabang kanami. So kanami sa ini warad mo pian pag-ugpo noy. So trabaho nay kun to yan og siwal kababoy nog mga unta trabaho nay. Kan nagat na marasi kano kag pangimatay sa ayam nay makalulo kay sa ini. Inungdan inon dininay ito kani way pondo ito mayong silbaran o problema. So, kako din gusto mahaan kayo problema ito kanami inon.
Ilujud na ka ng alamaran, naglapagyud sa mga katungod sa mga babae. Kay ang babae namo dito, na babae namo dito nga bayaran ng 100 kay gamiton ang pagkababae.
Nag-anak nga, dahil pwede na ka na ko, pwede na ka makuan ka ng may lagtan. Anak ko, ha? Niya anak ko nga, dili ko sir, uy, mahadlok ko. Niya nagdagan na dahil ko, pag-abot na ako dito sa balay, nagkuan na ako dito na ako sa aming balay. Anak ko nga, magi, pangayuan na unta ko, turipon na unta ko, niya nag-ato dahil ang mga militar kanang nagsundo sa ako, nag-ato na sa among balay. Anak siya, nganong naadlok man ka sa amo ganina. Anak ko nga, alangan kay imo man kong pangayuan og kanang ripon man unta ko nimo anak ko. So, anak siya nga, wala man ko naging anak sa imo. Anak ko nganong, anak ko giingnan ko nimo ganina o wala man unta ko naadlok sa inyo kaayo. Kung wala ko nimo pangayuan, anak ko.
Kani ma'am, ang unsa man ang inyong mga babae, okay ba nga makagunit mi ang mga sundalo sa inyong abaga? Bastos yun ang sundalo.
Wala talaga.
Di ako giingnan ma'am. Ako giingnan ma'am nga, kami sir, isa ka judger, tumbas ang kinabuhi. Mal ang bilat sa mga luman.
Sa ina si kanami sinugpot ito kabuhunganan. Nasukat Tagalog niyong kapayapaan. Si kanami, og sukul kay ang kamunugo. Manit sa kala kay sukul. Waro kay migan jet la inanaso. Kapig baruan na ikakanami dan iriya. Iriya na ilasanang kay sa Mindanao. Kapig baruhan na si kanasog kahiyong ko. Namoratu og isaktuon na sika. Ipanguhudok ka namin kung ipawo kayo kay taran. Nakuli kay matingad na wa kay manalan ng pangupot na iingkay. Kain ka na rin ay diyo kay tamo kaya panog-panog. Sika ka namin baruhanan. Kung bayaan kay pa sa alamara o pamanong kutulog. Kung bayaan kay sundalo pamalati kayo. Katawa mo pamalati. Kata mo manisan mo sa ako ko. O pamalati kito. Barahan basta makamalati kayo. Koko kay katawangan. Yan mo piya ipoli kasundalo ini. Kung nadipon niyo sa kabubunganan.
Magpadayon ang bakit.
Next is the Muslims. But first, we need to know what are these Muslim people. Muslims are people who adhere to Islam, a monotheistic religion belonging to Abrahamic tradition. When we say monotheistic religion, it means to worship one God while denying the existence of other gods. As of now, the Muslim population of the Philippines was reported as 6.01% of the total population. The majority of Muslims live in Mindanao and nearby islands. The contemporary Muslim Filipino communities are often collectively known as Moros. Like Catholicism, Islam in the Philippines has absorbed local elements such as making offerings to spirits or diwatas. Although Muslims are no longer a majority, Islamic culture is evident especially in the islands of Mindanao. There are many mosques and distinctive brassware, including the kris or dagger. Despite such remarkable existence of Muslim people, they also experience as an issue which should not simply go away from their beliefs. This is the discrimination in Muslim people. Discrimination of their religion is evident especially when we often hear Muslims engaging into terrorism and unwanted criminal acts. As we can see, we may often generalize and create bias towards Muslim people as a whole because of these doings.
It was at primary school that I started to wear scarves as I was a Muslim, and every time I used to go to school, everyone used to make fun of me because I'm a Muslim, and you know those terrorist attacks. There was this one time where some girl on this game actually let go of me for being a Muslim. One time a girl actually kicked me because I was a Muslim. I would sometimes go in my room and cry. I had to tell the teacher everyone was being racist to me. But at least I still had some of my friends to support me when I was feeling blue. I always get bullied about me being a Muslim, and then I'm gonna be planting some bombs around. But I love being a Muslim. Yes, we have to hide our hair. Yes, we have to hide our skin. But we all are beautiful. Just the same way.
Discrimination in Muslim people often target their beliefs, religious practices, and ways of living in which we can distinguish as peculiar with what most of us do, especially the non-Muslim people.
Let us now proceed to our topic, Lumads. Lumads, as we have learned in our previous topic, are a collective group of indigenous tribes living in the south of the Philippines, mainly in Mindanao. Lumads are non-Muslim or non-Christian. Thus, 15 out of 18 ICC in Mindanao adopted the term Lumad, a Visayan word for native or indigenous, to distinguish themselves from Christians and Muslims in Mindanao. However, keep in mind that some of the Lumads converted to Christianity and Muslim. The Lumad groups have very similar culture. Hence, the anthropologist Felipe Landa Hocano stresses that in most cases, language is the only differentiating element in ethnic cultures. Out of the 18, I would be covering the 6 Lumad groups mentioned in our book. Firstly, we have Cotabato Manobo. Cotabato Manobo is also known as Dulangan and Tuda, and they are in the southwest highlands of Mindanao. They are mostly Christians. In addition, they have a tradition wherein boys and girls blacken their teeth, after which they undergo a ceremony of tasting new rice which qualifies them for full manhood and womanhood. The most common lifestyle of Cotabato Manobo is that of agriculture. Their simple farming techniques allow fields to remain fallow for certain periods of time, so that areas of cultivation may be shifted from place to place. For our second group, we have the Bagobos. The Bagobos is also known as Manuvo, Obo, and Obo. They live in a very mountainous region of Mindanao, located between the Upper Pilangi and Davao rivers. Bagobos are divided into two main groups, which are the coastal Bagobos and the upland Bagobos. The Bagobos believe in a supreme being who inhabits the sky world, as well as a deity who brings sickness and death to incestuous couples. In addition, for their agriculture, they practice the slash and burn method. Among Bagobos of Mindanao, a supreme god called Pamulak Manobo was considered the creator of everything. In addition, Bagobos strictly prohibited incest, and in early times, people who committed such crime would be punishable with death. For our third group, we have the Bilaanor or Bilaan. They are called various names such as Balud, Baraan, Tagalagad, Takogan, Villanes, and etc. They live in a house scattered among gardens. The original religion of Bilaan is animism, which believes that all natural things can influence human events. Presently, only 5% of the 448,000 Bilaan tribal people are considered to be evangelical, or a person who believes in the Bible and of Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord.
Fun fact, they have the tradition to wrap their dead in tree bark, and the dead person's body is then suspended from treetops.
For the fourth group, we have the Bukidnon. They are also known as Binokid, Binukid, Higaonon, and Higaonen. They live in the highlands of north-central Mindanao. They are traditionally farmers which use water buffaloes to plow their fields. In early times, they lived near the headwaters of Pulangi River on the slopes of Mount Kitanglan, and they live in communal houses with as many as 50 families. But now, they live in a single family house.
Fun fact, Bukidnon is also labeled as the Highland Paradise in the heart of Mindanao. They also have a festival known as Kaamulan, from the Binukid word Amul, which means to gather. It is a gathering of Bukidnon tribes people for a purpose. It can mean a datuship ritual, a wedding ceremony, a Thanksgiving festival during harvest time, a peace pact, or all of this put together. During the festival, the 7 tribes in Bukidnon, namely the Bukidnon, Talaandig, Tigwahanon, Manobo, Umayamnon, Matigsalog, and Higaonon are gathered to celebrate diversity, culture, pride, and unity.
For our fifth group, we have the Mandaya. Mandayas live along the Mayo River. Similar to Cotabato Manobo, they have the tradition to blacken the teeth of their youths upon reaching puberty. They also do this because they believe that this act aids their beauty, which helps a young person to find a suitable partner for marriage.
The beliefs of Mandaya generally revolve around nature spirits, or Diwata, both good and bad. The Mandayas believe on God and has a deep respect to nature, especially the land. The land is sacred and holy. Man will die but the land remains. In principle, the Mandaya believes that land is not to be owned because man is only steward. They also have a God, which they believe is the source of both good and evil, the ultimate and absolute deity, which they call by the name magbabaya, literally meaning the governor.
For our final group, we have the Tiboli of Mindanao. They live in the southern part of the province of Cotabato, in the area around Lake Cebu, west of the city of General Santos. Similar to Bagobos, Tiboli practice slash and burn agriculture. However, these days, slash and burn agriculture is no longer possible. Thus, people stick to hunting or fishing for food.
In Tiboli belief, a spirit or force lives in all objects, animate and inanimate. The Tiboli make offerings including bracelets to the spirits of rivers and forests. Fun fact, Tiboli are also known as dream weavers. But why is Tiboli called dream weavers? Tinalak weaving was a practice observed by women who were referred to as dream weavers, as it is believed that the designs and patterns were sourced from images in their dreams, as handed by the spirit of the Abaca.
Now that we're done with Lumads, we will now learn about one of the legendary groups of people in Philippine history, the Muslims. Looking back on the current issues discussed, we cannot deny that many people feel indifferent or have prejudice toward Muslims. But why? I myself am guilty of having inadequate knowledge about these people. Today, they are not given that much importance. Aside from that, most people are unaware of their wide scope and contribution to our history. And at this moment, we will be breaking that stigma through unraveling more about them. And at the end, we will appreciate and recognize the legacy they have left. So who are the Muslims? Muslims are the most significant minority in the Philippines. Islam takes about 6% of the religion in the Philippines. And a trivia, in every 10 persons in Mindanao, 2 are Muslims. So we can truly see that they only occupy a tiny bit of our population, yet they remain highly significant. For the most part, they remain outside the mainstream of national life, set apart by their religion and way of life. Their unique and rich culture is greatly influenced by Islam, which refers to the complete submission to the will of Allah, meaning all the affairs that happen to a man, including his daily matters, like business or social life, be according to the will of Allah. Let me share one of the pillars of Islam, profession of faith, which is their creed. There is no God but the God, Muhammad is his messenger. This phrase, written in Arabic, is often featured in architecture and many objects. Muslims believe that Muhammad is God's last messenger, and God's message is written in the Holy Quran, Islam's holy book of divine revelations. Philippine Muslims consist of 13 subgroups defined based on language. First on the list is the Maguindanao, known as the Maguindanaon or Maguindano. Magin means people and Danao, which means lake or marsh. Maguindanao is the largest group of Muslim Filipinos and speak a language similar to most other Philippine languages, including Tagalog. They accepted Islam in the last quarter of the 15th century, and around 15th to 16th century, they converted to Islam. They are also called the people of the flooded flame. It's because they primarily inhabit the broad Pulangi River Valley and Delta, which occasionally flood. Specifically, they live in North Cotabato, Sultan Kudarat, and Maguindanao provinces in south-central Mindanao. Total Islamization of the whole Pulangi area succeeded only with the arrival of Sharif Kabungsuan, a prince from Johor who came to Mindanao after the fall of Malacca and nearby areas to Dutch colonialists in 1511. The greatest contribution of the Maguindanao people to civilization in Southeast Asia was the sultanates of Maguindanao and Buayan. They rose almost simultaneously after the arrival of Sharif Kabungsuan, who founded the first sultanate in Mindanao. Maguindanao was named after the sultanate or dynasty that ruled the area for years, and most of the population maintains an agricultural livelihood. Next is Maranao, or the people of the lake. Their oldest settlement started around Lanao, and up to this day, highly populated communities still dot the lake. They occupy the most strategic place in Mindanao, owing to their access to Iligan Bay in the north and Iligan Bay in the south. Maranao formed the largest Muslim community and cultural minority in the Philippines. Feudal standing, or the position, wealth, and land ownership from the ancestry of royalty, still maintains political position or prominence in their areas. In terms of their language, it is similar to Maguindanaon and Irano. Traditionally, they have been fishermen and farmers, and their families are large and close-knit. Maranao live together in villages made up of few but large households. They are a splinter group of the Maguindanao who took up Islam, and all families trace their religious origin to Sharif Kabunsuan, who introduced the religion in the area. Maranaos are famed for their sophisticated weaving and wood and metal craft. Like most Muslims in the Philippines, the Maranao consider themselves to be Muslim rather than Filipino. During the colonial period, they fought against the Spaniards, usually under the flag of the Maguindanao Sultanate. Like other Muslim ethnic groups, the Maranao are brave and have offered sacrifice in defense of their homeland and Islam. Throughout the colonial period, Lanao was united as one province of the Maguindanao Sultanate. Seeing the importance of Lanao, the American colonial government in Manila encouraged landless Filipinos to migrate to Mindanao. Most settlers targeted Lanao as their final destination. After about 50 years, the Filipino settlers became established in the area north of Lanao. This eventually led to the division of Lanao into Del Norte and Del Sur in the beginning of 1960s. Then we have Tausug, derived from Tao meaning man and Sug meaning current. Hence, Tausug translates to the people of the current. This group is known for its courage and bravery and lives primarily in the Sulu archipelago. Tausugs had their system of government before the arrival of Islam or Christianity. They openly welcomed Islam and the government that came with it, forming the Sulu Sultanate. Islam and its government then spread to other places including Tawi-Tawi, Palawan, Basilan, and Zamboanga, and Sabah as the leaders moved to several regions. They practiced the blood compact to signify the depth of their loyalty to one another and are famous for being the best pearl divers in the world. Fourth, we have the Sama, derived from the term sama-sama, which means togetherness or collective effort. They are highly dispersed in the Sulu archipelago, consisting of 5 subgroups. They are geographically diversified owing to their exposure to maritime activities and fishing. Helping each other is recognized as norm of the Sama people. They are considered the boat people, spending most of their time living on the water, which is why they are also regarded as the sea gypsies of the Philippines. Then we have the Yakan. It is the majority Muslim group in Basilan, south of Mindanao. They mainly reside in Basilan but are also in Zamboanga City. The dispersal is caused by the political conflicts in the area of Basilan. With the Sim as our source, Yakan is said to be a mispronunciation of the word Yakal by the Spaniards. While the term Basilan originated from Basi or iron and Balani or magnate, the ancient time Basilan was thickly covered by Yakal trees. Foreign people often mistook the name of the Yakal trees as a native identity. Aside from that, they have 2 spheres of belief, integrating Islamic principles and traditional beliefs into what is referred to as folk Islam. There are many areas where the Yakans become minoritized and further displaced from their own lands. In the areas where they are already minoritized, the Yakans are exposed to marginalization. According to some articles I have found, the Spaniards' first recorded sighting of the island of Basilan was in 1521, shortly after Magellan's death. His surviving crew sailed past an island called Tagima, known for its many pearls, which, by his chronicler's description of its location, is presumably the present-day Basilan. In our book, it was spelled as Taghima. So with this, we can see how this group of people, even with the presence and dominance of the Spaniards, were able to fight and preserve their culture, religion, and group. Basilan has been one of the target of Christian penetration since the Spanish era. Its rich resources like timber and fertile agricultural land and geographical proximity to Zamboanga has made it vulnerable to present capitalist exploitation and Christian domination. Let's move forward to the Ilanon or Iranon, the sixth group, which is said by many to have been the origin of the ethnic groups within the Lanao del Sur to the Maguindanao areas. Their language is seen in the Maranao and Maguindanao languages. Many sultan of Maguindanao were said to have been from the Iranons, regarded as the fiercest pirates in the Malay world, adopting a typical maritime lifestyle of sea invaders and have transitioned as fishermen and long-distance traders. They used to ply the route connecting the Sulu Sea, Moro Gulf to Celebes Sea, and raided the Spanish-held territories along the way. Their skills and knowledge in navigation and being a sailor are comparable to their skills of the whites. Next is Kolibugan, a Sama word that means half-breed. They are originally from the Subanan tribes. These people are called such because their culture has been said to be half-breed, having come into Islam through intermarriage with Muslim communities. These people still speak the Subanon language and retain the Subanon type of social organization, which is limited to clan orientation with less political inclination. Today, the term Kolibugan is applied to all Subanon who moved to the coastal areas and intermarried with the Muslims and finally embraced Islam. We have the eighth subgroup, which is Sangil. They are found in the Balut Sarangani, parts of South Cotabato and Davao del Sur provinces. The origin of its name came from Sanghe, or the islands in Indonesia between the Celebes. They were already Muslims before they came to the Philippine shore. They show great importance as they have been the buccaneers or pirates who attacked Spanish territories in other parts of the Philippines. The Sangil speak a language similar to Bahasa and in the Philippines, to Tausug. They also evolved their own social organization associated with central leadership, which enabled them to wage battle against the Dutch and Spanish colonialism. Then we have the Calagan, which are mostly found in Davao provinces. Islamization was achieved through the arrival of the Maguindanaon in Tausug. However, when the Maguindanao Sultanate and Tausug left, Kaalagan became marginalized and with less improvement in their social organization. Kalagan of the highest rank in their society do not perform manual labor. Among the rest of the people, the male or female division of labor is not very pronounced. Number 10 is the Muslim inhabitants of Palawan who were Islamized through the Sulu Sultan through the Tausug who went there to introduce the Islam to the local people. Now, the Muslim populations in the area are found in Bataraza, Quezon, Brooks Point, Espanola, Nara, Rojas, Taytay, and Aborlan. The early Muslim inhabitants in mainland Palawan were the Panimusan. These people became Muslims as a result of close contact with the Sulu Sultanate. Since the collapse of the Sulu Sultanate, contact between the Palawani and the Tausugs was almost lost. They have been isolated from each other as there is no direct trade or cultural link between the two people. Next is Jama Mapun, which is a Sama subgroup. They call their dialect as Pulon Mapun, which is part of the Sama language. The term Mapun stands for the west and they call themselves Jama Mapun because they are situated at the distant west of Sulu. Where do Jama Mapun live? Cagayan de Sulu is the largest concentration. It was called Cagayan de Sulu by Spanish colonialists and later named Cagayan de Tawi-Tawi upon the establishment of Tawi-Tawi province in 1973. But no matter what outsiders call their homeland, the Jama Mapun always refer to their native territory as Tana Mapun or Land of Mapun. In 1988, President Corazon Aquino signed Republic Act 6672 to officially allow the municipality to revert to its ancient name Mapun, which means you forgive in their native language. They are more oriented towards a land-based existence than most Sama groups, but are also heavily oriented towards maritime trade, emphasizing copra and forest products. They live both on the coast and in the interior of their islands. Aside from that, kinship is traced bilaterally, but there are unilineal features such as patrilineal inheritance of titles. The political structure revolves around the sultanate, but there is also an ancestor-based grouping called Lungon. An additional piece of info is that the earliest known European to have visited Mapun was Antonio Pigafetta, when he set Borneo in 1521 after Magellan's fall in Mactan. Pigafetta arrived at an island called Cagayan. He described it as full of large trees inhabited by naked Moros who were armed with blowpipes, arrows, and poisonous herbs. As early as the 1500s, the documentation of Pigafetta demonstrated the rich material culture of Jama Mapon. Second to the last subgroup is Bajau, widely known as the Sea Gypsies of the Sulu and Salabas Sea. They are scattered along the coastal areas of Tawi-Tawi, Sulu, Basilan, and some coastal municipalities of Zamboanga del Sur. They're known as Samalaos or Sea Sama and are found living on houseboats where they make their livelihood solely on sea as expert fishermen, deep sea divers, and navigators. So what do? Bajau come to the shore to barter their harvest foreign produce such as fruits and cassava, replenish their supplies or make repairs to their houseboat. What's unique about Bajau is their concept of life and relationship to the sea. Due to increasing piracy around the 1960s, the Bajau people were forced off the water and onto land. They found a new home and built wooden houses suspended over water to which they could tie their boats to. This style suited the tribe's people very well as it provided easy access to boats. With regard to their social organization, it does not approach even the level of a clan, in a sense because they have no recognized community leader. Their social structure is level. Rich people or elitism are completely absent in Bajau society. All of them belong to the poor strata. Family structure is the only factor that makes Bajau society possible. Finally, we have the last subgroup, Subanon. It is a group of animists and burn agriculturists that live in the forest interior and southern Mindanao. They are also known as Subanen, Subano, and Subanon. They are quite different from the lowlanders who live around them, who are either Muslims or Christians. They have history of being exploited and taken as slaves by their coastal Muslim neighbors. They live wildly scattered settlements and raise crops almost totally by hand without hoes. They also gather forest products, hunt wild pigs, deer, and fish, and collect crustaceans. One thing noticeable is that the division of labor between men and women is very equal.
So that ends our discussion about the Lumads and Muslims. What we shared only highlighted a few of their rich culture and history. If we try to take a look, research, and discover about them, we can truly witness their existence even before the Spaniards came and how they fought several wars to preserve what they have and what they believe.
In 1521, when Magellan landed in Leyte, he planted the cross of Christianity, but also claimed ownership and possession of the entire island. But that was 1521. 70 years, according to the Moros scholars of the 1st century. I also had I did a research of mine. 70 years before Magellan, Islam was already planted here. Nandito na yung mga evangelist. So when Spain said, kunin ko pati Mindanao, and I would call everybody, the natives there, our forefathers, I would call them Filipino to honor King Philip. Doon ang si Magellan nagtatrabaho. And he said, I'd call the Philippines to honor King Philip and Filipinos ang mga natives dito. When he did that, ang Mindanao dito noon nag-react. Kukunti pa na why? Because the Moro people cannot be called the subjects of a Christian king. Yan ang totoo talaga. So, nauna dito ang Islam. Galit sila sa gobyerno ng Spain, then America took over. And until now, they think that this is an extension of the imperialist government.